Welcome and thank you for joining us today. Moovila is really excited to do this in partnership with Halo PSA. It's one of our strongest partnerships that we've had going ever since it launched last year. We wanted to come to you today to talk about managing project profitability with the Moovila Perfect Project and Halo PSA integration. Today is going to be a very demo heavy kind of event. We really want to jump into the software and show you ways to use it. And for that reason, we brought in Morgan from the Halo team. So today with us, I'll start with Morgan and then go over to Lewis. We actually have the product manager of Halo PSA, Morgan Aspinall, joining us from the UK. He's been part of the Halo team for coming up on 5 years now. We're doing the math before this. He started in support desk and he moved his way into their onboarding team and then helping more and more MSPs implement Halo. And now he's focused as the product manager. You may see him at certain shows. He does community outreach webinars like this. But we were also talking, he's been on the road a little bit this year. So you may see him at an MSP show as well. And along with Morgan, we've got Lewis Bagdonas from the Moovila team. Lewis is our senior program manager of MSPs. He spends every day working with MSPs to onboard them to the software. So he's seen every size and type of MSP and how they do their different project processes and sits with them and kind of helps them optimize their processes depending on the integration they're using. So today we'll have both of them to kind of show the different sides of the software. My name is Kate Schlarf. I'm the VP of Marketing here at Moovila. If you have questions, you can DM me in the chat. You can also drop questions into the Q&A, and we'll be reading questions as we go or taking a moment at the end for them to review kind of all of them. So any questions you have, you can put them in there. And as always, we will send out the recording of this session about normally 2 business days after. So it may be Monday when it comes out, but just look for an email from Moovila and it will have the full recording. And it's also available on our website always if you have any partners or coworkers that weren't able to come that you think might be interested by the content. And with that, I'll turn it over to Lewis.
Cool. Thanks, Kate. So we were talking about this before as well too, going to the different shows and getting the presence out there in the MSP space. And so we're going to just do some quick intros of what is Moovila and what is Halo. Hopefully everybody here has some sort of frame of reference for either of those, as we have both spent a lot more time over the for Moovila last 3 years, and Morgan, for you on the Halo side, probably last long time in the MSP space. A lot of focus in the space. So Moovila Perfect Project, we are a robust automated project and resource management platform. And we've got portfolio management, reporting, dashboards, resource management, automated budget and finance, which we'll talk a lot about today. But at the center of Moovila is our critical path engine. So as you build your projects and your work plans and that structure out in our platform, our critical path engine forecasts when that work can happen on a task by task or ticket by ticket basis. With that, then opens up Pandora's box of different automations and different parts of the platform with forecasting resource management and forecasting potentially revenue and profitability and cash flow. So that is Moovila. And then the big piece for us is our integrations and our tight native bidirectional integrations with our partners like Halo PSA. So our team has built our integration in-house. We bother Morgan and his team all the time, right? And he keeps us in the loop of all the changes that Halo's making. So it's a great partnership. Feels like it's been a lot longer than a year already, and because it's grown so much in that platform and in our platform, over that period of time. So I'll hand it over to Morgan to just share a little bit about Halo.
Thanks, Lewis. Yeah, and thanks, Kate, as well for the intro. Hopefully most of you who are tuning in have heard of Halo PSA at least. As a quick introduction to Halo PSA, I guess the hint's in the name, fully fledged PSA platform. But really these days, I like to not constrain Halo to calling it just a PSA. It is a complete service management platform. The breadth and scale of functionality and what you can do with Halo is truly unmatched. As Kate mentioned, I've been here for 5 years now, and I've seen the platform grow to an incredible extent. And partly why we have been able to do that is because we are laser focused on supporting, building, delivering the best PSA on the market, the best service engine that there is available. And we're single-minded in that focus. And an important strategy or an important component towards that, of course, is partnerships. So, we're not looking to expand out and be the best at absolutely everything. We are the best at what we do, and we partner with best in breed tools at what they do to ultimately provide a best in breed experience for you guys, which is precisely why we're here today. And Lewis, yeah, looking forward to seeing some of the updates and some of the cool new features that we can do with the integration.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a great point, right? Laser focused. We're laser focused on projects. That's what we know and what we love. We love it all, but projects is where we spend all of our time. And I think what's important too is we recognize that PSA, Halo, that's your source of truth. As Morgan said, it's your full, robust, you've got everything going in there from service tickets, projects, billing, everything. So we recognize that, and we make sure that all the information that you need over in Halo related to your projects, you can do that in Moovila, or you can do it in Halo, and it flows back and forth. So before I jump into the integration, Morgan, you've been there for 5 years. You guys have grown a lot. What's your favorite thing or feature you've added to Halo? And I didn't prompt you with this question. I'm throwing it at you out of the blue. So,
oh boy, there's two. Can I give two?
I guess, yeah, that's fine.
One would be and I'll briefly touch on this when we get to the Halo component of the demo. One will be the ability to link recurring invoice quantities to separate areas of the platform. So again, going back to this sort of laser focused mentality, and something that Halo and Moovila share is a strong desire for community, for partnership, for integration. So Halo has about 250 plus integrations now, and that includes all of the integrations that you would expect as an MSP. CSP, so you can pull your licenses and subscriptions from your partner center. All of the major RMM platforms, Ninja and Central Datto, ConnectWise, so you can pull in your device counts, users again from Entra. And what we can do in Halo is we can automate the quantities on our invoices to the number of those things that are coming in from those integrations. So I remember a time before we had that feature, and billing reconciliation for our MSPs was, it could have been a whole day, a month, right? Going through various spreadsheets and matching numbers up. Now with that feature, it's been around for a couple of years. It goes from 8 hours a day to 0 seconds, because every day we're importing that information, updating it, and prorating where necessary. That's one of my favorites. And then the other one is something that's been introduced more recently, and that's Halo's custom integration runbooks. So touching on this concept that I mentioned about Halo being a platform, well, Halo has the ability to integrate with any authenticated API that you wish. So while we have 250 native inbuilt productized integrations, there might be some integration, there might be some platform that you're using that Halo doesn't integrate with. If that's the case, we can build that out for you with configuration, with a drag and drop codeless editor inside of Halo to fetch information from an API, get our data back, and do something with it in Halo. And then if you start to get creative with it, you can actually integrate Halo with itself, and you can start doing cool things in Halo that are somewhat out of the ordinary. And that's one of my favorite features, because that really does allow you to do pretty much anything you want. And I've seen some very creative solutions to various different problems or various different desires that people have, all solved with custom integration runbooks. So I'd have to give a shout out to that feature as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. We actually have a couple of partners who use our native integration to set up the projects, but then they also leverage our API to pull some additional information that might be a custom field or whatnot, and then they use those run books to then interact with those projects. So to your point, it's like integrating the Halo and Moovila integration with itself, and can do some. I've seen some people do some pretty slick stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
for sure.
cool. Well, with that, I'll jump into Moovila first, and we'll show you how you can create a project here in Moovila and then kick it over to Halo. What's important to note, though, is that it goes both ways, right? So we have built the integration where you can, if you need to run through an opportunity to a sales order conversion process in Halo with their CRM, absolutely go for that. Pull that project in, apply your work plan in Moovila and build it out from your templates in Moovila. So for those of you that aren't familiar with Moovila, or for those of you that are, this is actually a sneak peek at a new UI that we have in demo right now that'll be coming out into production soon. I haven't done it live on a webinar yet, and I'm finding that dark mode is better than standard or light mode. So if anybody, any opinions, drop it in the chat, give me some feedback. So I'm in the project portfolio here in Moovila. I've got it trimmed down because I've got a bunch of other projects in there. First thing that'll jump out at you is our RPAC score. That's a big differentiator for us. We are monitoring your projects 24/7, 365, right? And when we are monitoring those projects at a high level, we're saying, have you built a good plan and are you on track? So as you build your templates and you build new projects, you're going to have a good score in the green, that 980, 853 there. And then when projects go live and we start to go over and tasks are late and whatnot, that score will drop for you. So as you have a large portfolio of projects and you've got 50, 60 projects under one manager, you can quickly see, hey, which projects are going off the rails that I need to focus on. Now I've got some templates here. I'm going to go ahead and spin up a new project from my base project management template. You probably hear us talk all the time at Moovila about you've got your base, your bookends for your projects. You start and you finish all of those the same way. And I'll say that we're going to do an Office 365 migration and a risk assessment. Go ahead and put that under my Halo team. Go ahead and update my start date. Say we're going to start that next Monday, and then I will copy that template into a new project. When we spin up that new project from that template, we are going to pull in all of the dependencies. We're going to pull in all of your durations, your work estimates, your resource types. You can set your default work types, which are going to map to your charge codes or charge rates over in Halo as well too. But I've got these bookends here. And so what I'm going to do now is grab the pieces of that execution phase that I need. So I'm going to do an Office 365 migration and risk assessment. I'm going to come and duplicate from project template. We're going to allow you to duplicate as many templates as you want, as many phases within as many templates. You can copy from projects. You can really grab whatever you need and build what we call a Frankenstein project. So I'm going to grab this risk assessment. I'm going to grab this Office 365 migration. I'm going to drop them in my execution piece here. Again, that'll bring in all of our Moovila steps, our durations, our work estimates. Hey, our resource type is going to be a project engineer there. And what you might start to notice on the right-hand side is as you're adding these tasks and you've got your resource types in there and you've got some of your financial information set up in Moovila, we're going to start to total for you. Hey, what's your estimated revenue on this total project? What's your total cost estimate on this total project? You can look at it and break it down on a task by task basis, and then also on a phase by phase basis. Now, I'm going to jump out of this project real quick and go and take a look at one of these templates as we're talking about profitability. So one of the big things we've added in Moovila since coming into the MSP space are the template analytics. So every project task that's created from a template task, we recognize that and we pull that data back. So again, back to if you create your project in Halo and you bring it in and then you're building out your work plans with your templates in Moovila, no worries. We'll pull that data back into your templates. And what I can start to see is, hey, on Office 365 migrations, we're pretty good. We're under budget on most of our tasks, but cutovers, we're starting to go over a little bit. We can drill in to those tasks here in the template, and we can start to see what are all of those children tasks within projects, right? And then you can drill in and start to see who owned those tasks. And here I can start to notice that John, he was over budget on this one. He was over budget on this one. Amy was on budget here. Amy was under budget here, right? So really, John seems to be going over budget. Amy's under budget. We're going to calculate what the estimated cost is for you and that actual cost, so you can really drill in to that margin on a task by task basis. So with this knowledge, I'm going to go back to that project, and I'm probably going to assign all of that work to Amy before I have a chance to talk to John and say, hey, John, why do you keep going over budget on Office 365 migrations, right? That risk management or assessment piece is a different template. I could review that one separately, but I'll start to see, hey, let me plug Amy in there. What we'll also do is we'll look at Amy's specific cost and now calculate that more detailed cost based on that agent instead of necessarily just the resource type, which might have an average. So from here, right, I'm going to build out that plan. Maybe I'm going to say, hey, this is all going to be remote support. Let me go ahead and do a quick copy paste, update that charge code on all of those tasks. The last thing I probably want to do, make sure I do before I push over to Halo. Now, I talked about the critical path engine. This is our critical path view. So we've brought in all your dependencies from those templates to forecast the start and due dates of everything. I'm going to go ahead and just stitch this together. So after my client kickoff, I'm going to start running both of those execution pieces in parallel. As we tie everything together, we're reforecasting all the dates. Once we wrap those up, we're going to go into, our closeout phase the same way every time, right? So from there, the documentation, let me zoom out. So I can now see if I start this project on 5/5 with a scope review, I'm going to be forecasted to finish that thing and wrap up on 6/15. Also huge, when I go into that client kickoff now, I can say, hey, we're forecasted to cut over here on 6/8. Does that work for you? I can hit save, take all those dates. And then once you get that plan ready to rock and ready to roll, gosh, I sound like such an old person when I say things like that. Do you ever just hear yourself and you're like, that's terrible, I shouldn't have said that. I'm going to just come here, go to Halo PSA. I'm going to put this against Ron's Ironworks because that's the one I always use. I'm going to hit save. So this will now create that project ticket in Halo. It will create all of those corresponding project tasks. Your phases in Moovila are going to create as those milestones over in Halo as well too. So if I just take a quick look now at that sync info, I can see we're already pulling that ticket number 18374. So I'll jump over here to Halo, do a quick search on 18374, see that project's already in there. We've got that for all those project tasks. We have our planning phase with all those tasks. We've got our risk assessment. We've got our migration. We've got our closing. We have all those dates, budgets, statuses, priorities. And then if we start to drill into these as well too, we can see that default charge rate is populating for us in there with remote support. So now at this point, whether you're going to have your engineers stay over in Halo and keep working here, or you're going to have them in Moovila, you can enter time in either system. It's going to flow back and forth. You know, if I come into Moovila and I say, hey, well, the start date of this project has changed, it pushed out to the end of May, I can take a quick look at my critical path and see we've got new dates here. I can do a quick update, hit yes, come over to Halo. Let's go back into that project, throw a quick refresh, and I can see that those dates will start to populate and update for me over here as well. So bi-directional, firing off of the webhooks. As soon as you make changes and you save in either system, that's going to flow back and forth between the two. With that, Morgan, I'll kick it over to you. So your project's now in Halo. It's getting up and going, and you need to start billing it.
Yeah, sure thing. Thanks, Lewis. love the new UI. I like the dark mode. I'm a fan of dark mode, so you've got my vote.
Perfect.
Let me share my screen real quick. Hopefully everyone can see that.
Yep. Good.
Awesome. Yeah, so I suppose it's important to highlight, you know, not only how the integration works and all of the functionality, of which there is a lot, but kind of where Halo and Moovila sit with respect to one another in the entire process. So going back to what I mentioned at the start of the webinar about Halo being a sort of fully fledged PSA platform, you know, what I really mean by that is Halo has the full suite of PSA functions. You know, that includes sales and e-signing of proposals. It includes a project management component itself, and of course the billing as well, right? And you know, looking at a very straightforward example, you start off with a proposal for some professional services. From that, you create a project, you do some stuff to complete the project, and then either as you're going through, you're billing that, or you're billing that all at the end once all the work's complete. So, you know, where Halo and Moovila sit here is Halo is responsible for everything that's happening prior to the project being created. All of the neat functionality that you can leverage with Moovila kicks in once that project has been created. You know, your smart schedule, your critical path, looking at your revenue and the management of the project. And then Halo comes back into the conversation when we talk about, okay, so how are we going to bill for this project? So starting off with that initial component, what happens before the project's created, I just want to briefly highlight a couple of neat features and just talk about that flow there that you may expect from Halo to get to a project from an initial opportunity. So we've got all of our core modules here on our home screen, one of which being our CRM or our sales area. So I can hop in here, and this is where all of my leads and my opportunities are going to be. This is where my sales team are going to be working, closing those deals, working through that pipeline. The configuration that we have here is very diverse in terms of how we can organize our ops, organize our leads. That's primarily addressed on this left-hand view pane here. So we have a variety of different ways that we can view our ops, one of which being list view, where we can actually create our own bespoke lists, filtering the total list of leads and opportunities that we have in Halo PSA by some criteria. And the criteria that we would be filtering by would be any one of these hundreds of fields at this point, and allows us to create very diverse lists that satisfy precisely your requirements. I always touch on this point with a strong partner of ours who signed up with Halo, a US MSP who signed up with Halo early last year, and they said that, you know, when they came to Halo from the other PSA tool that they were using, they were asked by their onboarding consultant here at Halo, what do you want your process to be? How do you want everything to be set up? And this individual said that it was the first time that anyone had actually asked him that. And, you know, that's testament to how versatile the Halo platform is. And, you know, by virtue of the fact that you can filter by any of these hundreds of fields, should hopefully be an identifier of that. So yeah, we have our different views on the left-hand side here, and based on the views that we have selected, we have the list of ops that we're working through. The idea here is the process starts off with an initial quote or a proposal, of which we can have a quick look at one in here. Now, when we're sending this off, we can get that e-signed. So, you know, again, you're going to want to be tracking when the customer has accepted this quote. So we're tracking things like, date, we've got a signature, IP address, all of that good stuff to make sure that it is indeed a valid signature. At that point, you can either come in here and manually create your sales order, or you can let Halo automate that process for you. For the purpose here, I'm going to just create the sales order. And then it's the sales order that is effectively the central hub of all of the core activities that will be conducted following that proposal being accepted. And what I mean by that is your more comprehensive proposals are going to have sales orders that might include a full managed service agreement, some hardware, a project, perhaps some licenses as well. And the creation of all of those respective entities will spawn from the sales order. So the sales order is a very powerful component of Halo, as really, if correctly configured, really should be that place where you can always revert back to if you want to check where did this onboarding come from, or where did this agreement come from. And the entities that we're creating can be done so via hovering over the actions that we have here. So the lines that we have on our proposal and subsequently on our sales order can be configured in a variety of different ways, allowing for exactly what I just mentioned, allowing for the creation of an agreement, of a recurring invoice, or of a project, etc. And based on the configuration of our products, we have different available actions here. Now, when we're creating our projects, as we can see, we just did there in half a second, what we're doing is we're applying a template as prescribed inside of Halo PSA. So if I click into this, we can see that our installation product has got a project template linked to it, namely our standard project template. And these templates are quite versatile and quite dynamic, and the project that is ultimately created off the back of them. And what I mean by that is, of course, our templates allow for a variety of default fields to be set. So we might want to set the type of project that we're dealing with, our summary. We might want to add some details, perhaps with some links to relevant documentation. And then we have our children tab here. And it's our children tab that would allow us to create a series of tasks that sit underneath that project. For this purpose, I'm just going to pick onboarding and training, because what I want to highlight is this creation rules section. So Halo has a variety of different creation rules that can be applied that can define whether or not a task is created for this project, or furthermore, when it's created. So we can see here a couple of sort of honorable mentions, I guess, would be create after closing another child, or create when a single or multiple select custom field is selected. So we actually use this internally. So we here at Halo use Halo to run our projects, to manage our sales, to provide you guys with support. So we eat our own dog food, and we have this inside of our own project template where we have a series of modules, and based on the modules that are selected as part of the initial scoping of a project, that will define the tasks that are created underneath that implementation project. So if you want to implement self-service portal, we'll create a self-service portal task, and we'll add all of the relevant notes and documentation to said task. The closing after another child is a handy one, as well, as that can enforce a particular workflow, enforce a particular process. Without doing so, it's not necessarily a problem. It simply means that all of your tasks will be created at the same time, and it's subject to an individual starting a task that they might not have to start at that point. So we can enforce that by preventing a task from even being created until some other preliminary component of the project has been completed. Another nice little point that's worth mentioning here is the ability within Halo to copy the value or copy the data from the opportunity over to the project. And I always provide the statement of work, because that's a very clear example of the value here. So if I hop back to the original opportunity, we can see we've got this SOW tab. Now in here, we have the statement of work that has been added to this opportunity. The statement of work that we have here might be something that you want to template out, and we can have this statement of work applied based on a template, or it might be something that you want to manually type out. Nonetheless, you have a method of entering a statement of work on the op. And of course, you want to make sure that the statement of work that was agreed with the customer is the same statement of work that's given to the projects team. So there's no scope creep and everyone's on the same page, right? Coming from the onboarding team myself, I have been on the sticky end of scope creep. So I understand more than anyone the value of including this. And so, yeah, what you can do is any information. I mean, I'm just using statement of work as an example, but any information that you have added to your opportunity on a custom tab or in a custom field, we can copy over to our project accordingly. The idea there, of course, being people know exactly what it is that needs to be done as part of that scope. And then at this point, we have our project, we have our tasks. At this point, you would go over to Moovila, and that's where you would be managing the project. All of the cool stuff that Lewis mentioned, and you drive that project towards completion. And then after that, we get onto the billing component, right? So there's a variety of different ways that a project can be billed inside of Halo, and there's a variety of different billing mechanisms inside of the platform. All of those can be found in the invoices module, and namely under the ready for invoicing section. So this is another, I mean, I love so many features of Halo. It's hard to pick one, but this is another feature of Halo that I absolutely love, this ready for invoicing screen. It is effectively an interactive, dynamic screen showing everything in Halo that can have an invoice generated for it, but does not yet have an invoice generated for it. So at the minute, we're looking at our master list, right? So this is everything. This is all of my recurring invoices. So all of my monthly license invoices. If there are any pro rata changes that I want to bill separately, they'll be included in here. Any products that have been added to any of my tickets or projects will fall in here. Any specific labor that we want to bill, of course, we have our projects, and some other components there as well. For the purpose of the webinar today, I want to hop into the projects section of Ready for Invoicing. And again, what we're looking at here is a sub list of all of the entities inside of Halo that can, or all of the entities related to projects that can have an invoice generated for them, but have not yet been invoiced. So, here again, we're looking at the hardware that's been added to our projects and tasks. We're looking at the specific billable labor. If we're talking about a T&M project, then we should find the time that we add to our project and to the component tasks fall under here. We've got our sales orders. Again, this touches on the point that I just mentioned, where you start off with your opportunity, you create a proposal from that opportunity, proposal's accepted, a sales order is created from that proposal, and then finally, after that sales order is created, you have the invoice created off the back of that. That might be for a fixed fee project that you're billing upfront, for example. And then more recently, we've added our milestone billing component into Ready for Invoicing. So milestone billing has in some form has been available for a while now, but more recently we've added a new method of billing for milestones inside of Halo PSA. And that method is now based on a fixed value. The fixed value is something that can be entered onto the milestone itself, which we can do so from our project via our milestones tab, where against a milestone, we have the option to set a value in here. Now, this value will be billed when the milestone is complete, and the milestone is complete when all of the tasks that are linked to our milestone are closed off. at which point we should find the milestone value popping into the milestone section. Or we can have invoices generated against milestones that are completed for the billable labor within that milestone. So we've got fixed fee project billing, we've got T&M project billing, excluding the concept of milestones. We've got T&M billing, including the concept of milestones, and we've got milestone level fixed fee billing. Further to that, we have the ability to create, or the ability to leverage deferred revenue inside of Halo against our projects. So we can bill upfront for a project, add that against a deferred revenue account, and then as the work's completed, chip away against that deferred revenue. The process of creating our invoices, whether they're from projects or otherwise, is a very straightforward case of selecting the records that we want to invoice for. If I want to invoice for everything, then I can click select everything up top here. Or if I want to show a restricted list or a filtered list inside of our ready for invoicing section, we actually have the ability to create filters directly from within here. So this is another handy feature that might not be as well known in the Halo community. What this is this is an awaiting review / ready for invoicing filter. And if those of you are interested in how you can leverage this, all you have to do is pop into configuration, and then within our billing section, under general settings, in our charge type settings header, we have this awaiting review / invoice filters, where you can go in here and you can create your own filter, again, based on any of those hundreds of fields that we have seen in the past. So you might have customers grouped by top level. You might have different categories against different types of projects. So you can create your own bespoke filters in here and filter the list of records that you see in Ready for Invoicing. Select the entities that you want to bill. Click Create Invoice in the top right. And then away you go. And that will create the invoice or set of invoices based on the grouping mechanisms that you have set in Halo. And when I talk about the grouping mechanisms there, what I'm referring to is, again, in configuration billing, general settings, under our invoice creation settings. We've got a couple of options here for how we group our invoices. Our invoices for labor, not relevant to projects. Our invoices for labor within projects, or our invoices that are generated across multiple projects. So you have a variety of different ways that can define how the invoice looks once it's created, how we're grouping, what we're grouping by, all that good stuff. And then, of course, that's not necessarily the end of the story. You may well have an accounting platform, and if it's a cloud-based accounting platform, QuickBooks Online being the popular choice in America, as soon as those invoices are created inside of Halo, they will be synced over to QBO, and you don't have to worry about manually syncing or anything like that. I'm conscious of time, but I just want to briefly mention that first feature that I was talking about with regards to linking invoice quantities to other areas of the platform. I'll just spend 2 minutes on that. Of course, project billing is only one component of how you're generating invoices inside of Halo. Your recurring billing, your contract billing, your license billing is probably going to be hopefully the bulk of the revenue that you're getting from your customer base, and so it's an incredibly important aspect of your business. And those are set up in our recurring invoices section. And what we can do with our recurring invoices is we can take one of our lines on our recurring invoices that will be generated on a scheduled basis, defined by the schedule that we set on the right-hand side here. And we can change our quantity from being a hard-coded static value that you would have to maintain each month to being a dynamic value that's based on some other area of the platform. That might be licenses or subscriptions that are coming from CSP or from your favorite disty. It might be the users coming from Entra. It might be the assets coming from Ninja One. And more recently, again, you can get as wild as you want. You can even write a custom SQL query that is going to count up anything in your database and return that count and define our invoice quantity based on that count that's returned from the SQL. An incredibly powerful option, this one, but kind of a scary prospect to me, because if you don't know your SQL and you forget a where clause, then your numbers are going to be wrong. So triple check that SQL query. And yeah, when we select the entity, I'm going to pick assets here as an example. When we select the entity that we're basing our invoice counts off of, we have the ability here to define some filtering criteria. So again, you might want to invoice per device, but you might actually want to be a little bit more specific. You might want to invoice per server, which I could do so by selecting server as my asset type here, or invoice per workstation, which would be as simple as doing that. Or you have some additional criteria that you want to filter for those recurring invoice lines. So again, an incredibly diverse platform. If you have a desire to do something and a little bit of creativity, the chances are that you are absolutely going to be able to do it in Halo. And yeah, that's the long and short of it. No, we wanted to leave a little bit of time for Q&A. So
yeah, no, thanks, Morgan. That's all. That's great. And I think too, what you showed with all the different ways to bill, and what we see all the time as well, is MSPs are billing projects a number of different ways. We ask the question when they come on, we're like, well, how do you typically bill your projects? And they're like, well, most are fixed fee, except, for telecom projects, we'll do those as fixed fee, but sometimes not, maybe a little bit T&M with Milestone. And, all the different options that you ran through show that all those different ways people are billing, whether they're right or wrong, you can make it happen. So.
Yeah, for sure.
I know we got one question in there. Back to when you were talking about those ops to sales orders. So the question was, can you make the scope a checklist in the project?
Yeah, that's a great question. You absolutely can. Yes. So I guess I'll share my screen again.
Yeah.
So the checklist would tend to be defined in, it is defined in Halo as a to-do list. Now, against our projects, and more generally speaking, against any ticket inside of Halo, we have the ability to add to-do lists here. If I can move my browser, there we go. Yeah, so we have our to-do lists here. Now, you'll note that I didn't manually add these in. So there's a variety of different ways that we can add these in here. The most basic being to click the three dots in the top right. Then we can add our to-do list item here. So I might want to just manually do something, and that's just going to add a to-do list item in there for me. But you see a couple of other options there as well. We can add a to-do list from a template, which I'll touch on in just a moment. We can add a to-do list group, which is a group of checkboxes, a group of to-do list items. And actually, if I want to do it really quickly, then I can just add a multiple line list in here, which is going to add those to-do list items in accordingly. So we can manually add those in. Touching on the point that I mentioned about this project sort of skeleton, this project template being defined and set against the product that we saw earlier. If I click into my sales order and then into my product and then to my template from there, we'll see against our templates, we have the ability to define to-do list items here as well. When we're setting these up, you'll note that we can also add customer restrictions in here. So we can have a dynamic set of to-do list items based on the different customers that we have. Maybe some customers are on-prem, some are using Azure, and you might want different checks based on that. So you can be dynamic in terms of what to-do list items are applied for our different customers. And then handy for our to-do list items as well, we can actually prevent our projects from being closed unless our to-do list items are checked off. So I'm not sure if it's configured in this instance, but I can very quickly check. So if I go to close this, I can't, because there are to-do list items that have not been checked off. So again, we can enforce a certain level of process here where you can have to-do lists against your project, to-do lists against all of your tasks, and you can prevent closing each task until all of the to-dos within those tasks are completed. And you can prevent closing the project until all of the tasks are completed. Handy to note as well that when these are checked, we add audit records of who checked it and when they checked it. So, people aren't just coming in here and just clicking these so they can close the project or close the task. We're actually maintaining that. So if someone checks this but hasn't completed the requirement to check it, you'll have visibility of that as well.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. And those, just for those of you that might not know, the to-do list in Halo syncs then to our steps in Moovila. So again, one of those important aspects that we need to make sure is between the two. And I think what's great to highlight on both sides on those templates is you can build all the data and the information that you need into those. What I've always not understood and has driven me crazy is in some of those other systems out there, they look at templates as different objects, if you will, and they restrict how much information you can associate with them. So then when you're using those templates on your projects, ultimately, you're having to fill out a lot of information that's the same over and over and over, where why can't you just put it into the template?
Yeah.
So Morgan, as always, that was awesome. We appreciate it, right? There's so much to it. There's so much you can do with it. It's so powerful with the integration as well, too. We appreciate you running through it. I'll throw up my screen again once Zoom lets me do it there. So for those of you that have any more questions, keep them coming in. Halo, you get a 30-day free trial, right? So hop over there to Halo PSA. And then for anybody on here, we also have an offer of, buy any of our couple modules, get a module free if you sign by the end of May. I know our team will reach out after this to all the attendees with the information as well. I'll leave that one up. The last thing I want to drop into is, Morgan, you made the point about a customer last year that came over from another PSA into Halo. We are also seeing that as well too, right? And we also can support that if some of those moves are coming from other PSAs we support. We've got a number of people that have done it where they've been running out of Moovila and another PSA. They make the change for their PSA over to Halo. We essentially just cut it off over there, and then we push everything over into Halo. And that project team and that project management aspect can still continue to live in Moovila and then get all of that additional value with Halo over there as well.
Yeah, that's neat because, more generally speaking, migrating your PSA, whatever PSA it is, Halo or otherwise, is such a heavy lift, and there's such an incredible time sink, and a lot of that is migrating data, right? You want as seamless a transition as possible, and if there's anyone that's using Moovila today and is thinking about Halo, it is very important to know that you can effectively reduce the scope of implementing projects in Halo pretty significantly during your onboarding because of exactly what Lewis just said there. Your projects team continue to work out of Moovila. You swap out your existing PSA connection with Halo PSA, and then everything that they see in Moovila, they should see in Halo. And yeah, it's a seamless experience, and that will significantly reduce the overhead when it comes to an onboarding and a migration. So yeah, good shout.
Yeah, that's the fun stuff, right?
Yeah,
those big changes.
Yeah, tell me about it.
Well, thank you guys. I don't see any more questions coming in. I will drop in the chat a link if you would like to explore Moovila's offering for Halo PSA, so to look more at like the integration setup and some of those things. We also have a previous webinar we did with Morgan that's available on the website. We have all of our webinars. You can get them immediately on the website, or we actually have a public playlist that is always releasing some of these on YouTube. So you can follow us on YouTube and it'll give you a little alert when there's a new one up, and they're all types of subjects. This was very specific to one integration. We've got other ones about KPIs and building templates and all of that type of stuff. But thank you so much, Morgan, for joining us today. And as a reminder for everybody, we will be sending out the recording after. Morgan, where should people go if they want to connect with you directly?
So if you feel free to drop me an email directly, it's morgan.aspinall@halopsa.com, morgan.aspinall. I'll put it in the chat. More generally speaking, if you're interested in taking a further look at Halo, some of the things that I showed off today, feel free to reach out to sales@halopsa.com. You can see there that you can get a free 30-day trial. There's no commitment there, so feel free to go to Halo PSA, get a trial, check it out, see what it's all about, and if you do have any questions, we're always here to help.
Awesome.
And that's my email in the chat.
If you guys want to reach out to, perfect, thank you. Oh, hold on one second. Let me make sure it goes to everyone.
Yes.
If you guys have any follow-up questions for, there you go. If you guys have any follow-up questions for Morgan, you can send them there. Lewis is the same. It's lewis.bagdonas@moovila.com, or mine's a little different, kate@moovila.com. You can also reach me, and I will set you up with the right person at Moovila if you have specific questions on the integration, on onboarding, different things like that, so we can get you in touch. And thank you so much. We've already got our next webinar set up. It is, I believe, May 22nd, and we'll be talking about the phases of the project lifecycle and kind of different things to automate and optimize throughout that, with Lewis and our VP of Operations, Bucky Job. And yeah, so if you want to join us for that one, check out our webinars page. Thank you everyone for joining. Have a great
since
day.
we have a minute, I'll end with my fun fact, since I didn't get to throw my fact in at the beginning, and I know you love my facts so much. You said in the chat, you said something about you like to call them Legos. I don't know if anybody's seen, I'm a big Lego family. So recently Legos have been subject to being stolen, like rare Legos from toy stores and whatnot. And through that, I learned that the Lego company, you are not supposed to say Legos. It is Lego bricks if you need to have a plural of Lego. It is never Legos. So that's my fun fact for the day.
I think the market makes it what they want to make it. Good
Right.
try, Lego.
Yeah. So
Awesome.
cool. Morgan, thanks again. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, guys. Yeah.
Have a great day, everybody. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.